ever expect to be seeing the things that you are now seeing? Never.
No, absolutely not. Not across the whole of north of Africa, the way that we've seen it change. And I think this is only the beginning. I mean, we're looking forward to next year. The revolutions happen, but as we all know, that what happens after revolutions, the countries go through convulsions and contortions, and several governments in the next few years. Syria is an event in a way still waiting to happen, and that will have a knock-on effect. So
Syria's going to have a huge knock-on effect.
To be sort of watching the Middle East completely and utterly change. No, who would imagine that sitting here in Europe?
The UN has recently come out with reports saying that they believe there's already civil war in Syria. Arwa and Holly, you were recently there. I just want to show some of what Arwa had to say about her experience there.
I was hiding in the back of a white van with two activists who were absolutely terrified, who I'd never met before in my entire life, and they were taking me through the Damascus suburbs to link up with a young doctor who had set up a secret underground clinic, part of a network of doctors trying to save wounded demonstrators' lives. They were taking this incredible risk because they wanted us to see some of their patients, people who had gunshot wounds that weren't able to go to hospitals, and a young boy, a teenager. The doctor didn't have the medical equipment to be able to fully understand the scope of his injuries, and so he said this little boy was partially paralyzed from the waist down. The doctor was a young man. He said it was so difficult for him to have people die in his hands because he quite simply couldn't save them.
You know, for months, the Syrian government has been lying publicly. They've been saying their ambassadors here say journalists are free to travel wherever they want in Syria. Anybody can go there. You can see, you can talk to whomever you want. What was your experience?
Well, you're free to travel as long as you take a government minder with you who's not called a government minder. He's called a facilitator. He's not there to prevent you from reporting. He's actually there to help you out. And
protect you against those elements who might want to do you harm. And that was the narrative the whole time we were in Syria. We're not keeping you from traveling around the country because we want to hide things from you. We're keeping you from traveling around the country because we want to protect you. But it was still better to be there with those restrictions than not to be there at all. We were able in the end to get some of these stories, get out away from our minders and get some
because
of the
street whispers to you too, and the street talks to you. And
what do you mean the street whispers to you?
People come up to you and they'll slide pieces of paper into your hand.
That's how we connected with some of the activists. They would slide in this age of Twitter and you know, Facebook and everything, the most old-fashioned way of communicating is how I got the best contact in Syria, which was a young man, an engineering student who I'm still in touch with a fake email account just to make sure he's okay. Just roll this tiny little piece of paper and put it in my hand and said, "They're lying to you. Call me. Email." It was amazing how they get around the controls.
And when you think about the risk that they're taking, I mean, they could die so easily or be tortured or have, things that we can't even imagine. We hear some of the stories coming out of Syria, and they're so terrifying. It makes your skin crawl. And these people are taking this risk all the time. And we'd be there surrounded by government minders, and someone would just walk past and just say, "They're lying." That's all you hear.
Do you get used to seeing the bravery of people coming forward? Do you get used to seeing people being killed in the streets for speaking out?
These people, the bravery that we've seen, like, it makes you want to weep sometimes to see these people that come out. They're at a funeral of their friend who was killed, and then the security forces start shooting at the funeral procession, and they still keep chanting, you know, democracy or down with the regime when being fired on that way.
Even now, on my show, I talk to people in Syria on the phone who insist on using their real names. They insist on it because they say they're no longer afraid, and they want the government to know they're not afraid no matter what is going to happen to them.
That's the biggest unifying factor, I think, I found through the whole region. People saying, "We lost our fear." Ben, you were in Tunisia at the beginning, and it started there, and it just rolled across. When people say they've lost their fear, that's when governments should worry.
We're going to have much more ahead with our correspondents. For Libya, 2011 also brought incredible change there. Opposition forces took on Muammar Gaddafi's military, ultimately